Hi guys. You guys asked for an NLSAT video since the exam is on March 17, जो कि बहुत जल्दी है. We have with us Urvashi Krishnatra, who cleared NLSAT last year, and she's a very bright student. I got to know when she came in, and even before her selection in NLS, we were in touch. Beach में she contacted me about the strategy and all, and eventually she did manage to clear the exam. So yeah, this video is about the NLSAT preparation strategy and specifically focusing on Urvashi strategy, not my strategy, because Urvashi के time पे pattern change हो गया था. Part A consists of 75 questions which are MCQs. एक मार्क का एक क्वेश्चन होता है और नेगेटिव मार्किंग है 0.25 marks. Part A consists of comprehension, current affairs, and critical reasoning. Now, Part A is basically the first stage. After Part A, a rank list of candidates is prepared based on their performance in Part A. And to be eligible for evaluation in Part B, a candidate should have secured more than 0 marks in Part A of the paper. Now, जो sheets Part B के लिए select होती हैं, that is selected in the ratio of 1:5. So, for example, 120 seats है, तो around 600 बच्चे उनकी स्क्रिप्ट पार्ट बी की सिलेक्ट होगी 600 बच्चों की. Now, Part B consists of 6 logical reasoning questions, which the word limit is 300 to 350 words, and one current affair based essay. Yeah, am I right?
Yeah, a 500 word essay for current affairs
Okay.
and 150 words. No, I think that's also 300
हाँ,
words for
वो
the
बता
six
रहे थे.
questions.
हमारे टाइम पे it was 100 150.
हाँ हाँ.
ये एप्टीट्यूड रीजनिंग क्वेश्चंस वो 60 मार्क्स के होते हैं, और जो 15 मार्क्स का essay है दैट इज 15 मार्क्स 500 words. So now Urvashi would tell us her strategy for part A, and then we'll talk about part B. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So for part A, initially, I mean, I was not sure as to how to go about the exam. So I
Hmm.
had some GMAT prep material
Hmm.
through that. But
Hmm.
in the original NLSAT paper that we gave, उसमें तो the reading comprehension was not as tough. काफी easy passages आए थे. What was slightly weird in the paper was the GK section. The comprehension part was much easy. The
Hmm.
GK section was something ki it's not necessarily if you've read the paper every day you'll get it. It was also Twitter news जैसे
Okay.
um
Like very
Harvey Weinstein कौन सी
like uh, like जो normal standard होता है वैसा नहीं था competitive.
वैसा नहीं था. It was something कि oh if you're going through Twitter or something very current affairs focused, also not mainstream current affairs.
Hmm.
So the GK way somehow, I
Like
figured it out. I also guessed a couple of answers.
like that. It was hit or miss,
What?
right? The GK part.
Yeah, I was hit on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Then
So I'm saying पार्ट ए में तीन एस्पेक्ट्स है. तो पहला था कॉम्प्रिहेंशन. सो
हाँ.
कॉम्प्रिहेंशन के लिए लाइक व्हाट डिड यू डू? जीमैट मटेरियल ओनली?
Yeah, GMAT material, but honestly, I don't think that level was necessary because the comprehension level of the paper is not as high. But at least in our time, the passages were not that easy, not that hard to comprehend. So it was much easier. And at least in your, what I remember from the paper that was given to your batch was that there were various sections ki logical reasoning bhi aa raha hai and reading comprehension was a different section. There's also some amount of legal reasoning involved.
यस यस.
However, in our paper, it was mostly just reading comprehension and GK.
ओके.
Even the legal reasoning part was not there. So it was just reading comprehension and GK, as from what I remember. Yeah.
सो लाइक डिड यू फॉलो एनी मॉक्स और समथिंग, और डिड यू लाइक उसी एग्जाम डे पे गए और हो गया?
Like, so I did take this coaching. I'm not sure. Am I supposed to mention the name of the coaching?
या इट डजंट मैटर, कम ऑन.
So I took the TLOI mocks. It was just because I think those were the only offline mocks that were available in Delhi for
ओके.
this exam. And I live in Delhi, so I went for the two mocks.
ओके.
But it was not. The mocks were nice, but ऐसा नहीं था कि something out of the world or something. But just to manage your time and see.
Exactly,
how
exactly.
much time it is taking for you to go through one part of the paper. It gave you a good idea of that.
Even for me, like I took
Yeah.
law digest के mocks because उस time था ही नहीं.
हाँ.
So even like the mocks
हाँ.
quality was like average, but उससे मुझे time
हम्म.
कि मुझे कितने time में
हाँ.
करना है. So I think it's good for time management eventually. Like
हम्म.
mock तो लगा देने चाहिए. And
Right.
so like when you did part A, तुम्हारे mind में था कि I need to complete it इतने time में, या फिर मुझे part B पहले करना है या part A पहले करना है, because I did part B first and then part A.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So I think even in the mocks, I had realized that part B was not my strongest suit. I was more comfortable with part A. So I thought maybe I'll take uh, half the time of the paper, or maybe 80, no, not 80, sorry, 40% of the time to
Mm,
go through part A. And
mm,
since the reading comprehension part in our paper, the passages were not that hard to understand, it didn't take as much time to get through it. But I think हाँ उस दिन पे तो, because on the day of the exam you have a lot of anxiety even in the paper. Even the easiest things might take a lot of time. So
yeah.
even though I thought that maybe I'll complete part A in the 40% of the time, it took me around 50% of the time, or more than that, like slight 5 minutes more than that as well,
Okay.
because of nerves.
Mm.
हाँ.
So also,
And to I went to part A first. I wanted to complete part A completely because in this paper there is no negative. There's negative marking for basically everything. So
yeah, yeah.
might as well attempt the paper. Yeah.
Mm. And like also like my consideration was that कि हमारा part A was just qualifying and real
Yeah.
selection based on part B.
Hmm.
Part B तो करना ही है अच्छे से.
हाँ हाँ.
You guys part A and part B के cumulative marks count होते.
Yeah.
So the future aspirants, I mean, you need to take
Hmm.
into consideration and then decide कि क्या करना है पहले, because दोनों marks count होंगे.
हाँ.
So
Because
hmm,
वही कि part A can actually help you sail through, because part B was not my strongest suit. So I got very average marks in part B. However, part A was better for me. तो उसकी वजह से the cumulative score was better.
also like did you do all the 75 questions in part A?
Yeah, for part A I did. For part A I did. I attempted all the 75 questions.
Makes sense also because negative marking is like just 0.2.
Hmm.
तो तुम्हारा
Yeah.
सही हो रहा है और मतलब
हाँ.
और गलत हो रहे हैं तो वो कैंसल आउट हो रहे हैं तो
वही, एंड द फैक्ट कि अगर आप छोड़ोगे तो भी नेगेटिव मार्किंग है.
हाँ,
इवन इफ यू मार्क इट रॉन्ग तो फिर
exactly.
देन आल्सो इट्स नेगेटिव मार्किंग. सो माइट एज वेल टेक अ चांस कि जितने बन जाए बन जाए.
तुम छोड़ो तब भी नेगेटिव मार्किंग है.
हाँ.
Did not know this. Okay, interesting. तब तो
या
कुछ
इन.
of course. So like if we talk about part B now, part B has 6 questions,
या.
logical reasoning question and one essay.
हम्म.
So how did you approach part B? Like, first talk about the 6 questions, like 350 words
Yeah,
each.
so the first, I remember when I was talking to you in the month of February as to how do I go about it, and
Hmm.
you recommended some material,
Hmm.
and I had also gone through the last year's paper, but the paper that was given to us, I think uh, the scenarios were not as specific as they were in the paper that was given to you. हमारे में there was a lot of chance for giving slightly vague answers as well, open-ended answers as well. The questions were shorter,
Hmm.
but yeah, a good chance for giving open-ended answers.
So, like, did you follow any method? Like for me, like हमारा क्या था कि 100 and 150 words. So already
हाँ.
like 1.5 page में आता है. So
हम्म.
started with the issue. Secondly, I explained what is the issue or
Yeah.
like how to go about it, and
हम्म.
eventually I concluded like बहुत एक set pattern था A B C. So what like how did you write answers? Like what क्योंकि 300 350 words है. So you have to write more. So did you have any set
Yeah.
pattern in mind कि ऐसे लिखना है कि you just went with the flow?
I went, I think I talked to you and you had told me about Iraq. So I tried to follow that in the paper as much as possible. But
That
I also know कि even though the word limit was 300, I
mm,
think I barely exceeded 200 in some questions. I barely exceeded that.
mm,
Because anyways I had less time for part B, so I wanted to complete the entire paper to at least reach the passage.
yeah, makes
Yeah, so I wrote short answers, and I tried to follow Iraq as much as possible. Even though I think the later answers I wasn't able to because it was really short on time again.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And like when we are answering these questions, so like would you recommend students to have a clear stance on the issue? Like their conclusion should have a clear stance. Like you're saying your questions were open-ended. So
Hmm.
I haven't seen that paper personally. So would you
Yeah, yeah.
like when you are writing answers to have a clear stance on the topic and then conclude accordingly, or just leave it open-ended?
No, like when I mean open-ended, that there's a good scope for arguing,
Both
but
on both.
also you need to take a clear stance, regardless of which side you're going towards.
Mm,
Argument your way through it.
mm,
Present cogent arguments,
mm,
or where you have to argue your way through it. ताकि conclusion, even though the
mm.
question gives you a lot of scope to argue, कि हो सकता है अंदर not all the facts are present on the basis of which you argue.
Yeah.
You can not exactly add facts,
Mm.
but I mean, um,
And idea.
make creative arguments.
Yeah.
Make creative arguments, but you have to take a clear stance.
Okay.
कि which side you're arguing for. If it's,
Mm.
yeah, you have to take a clear stance.
Well, I think so. Like having a clear stance, especially in the conclusion, is necessary because in the end,
Yeah.
they want lawyers, and lawyers need to have
Hmm.
समझे इस चीज पे
Yeah.
इस चीज पे आगे बढ़ना है. Okay,
And
and
even for the essay part, that is true. मतलब, not just the legal reasoning part.
so for essay, like it's 500 words. So
Yeah.
how did you approach it, and what was your strategy for essays, like specifically essay?
So the one of the topics that we got, it was about AI, and Chat GPT was a very
Yeah.
frequently discussed topic at that point of time. So the good thing for me was that I had read on it.
You used application in NLS also at this
Yeah.
way through projects and everything. I'm sorry to cut you off. Yeah.
No, 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 it's fine. But yeah, so I had read up on it. So I was lucky with that. I got a topic that I had an idea about.
Okay.
Um, so I think I had a good 7-8 minutes for the essay. So from the 500 word limit, I think
Mhm.
I don't know the exact number of pages, but from the 500 word limit, I was only able to complete maybe 200, 250 words, whatever I was able to manage, whatever I was able to
Okay.
write in those 7-8 minutes.
Mm.
So I remember taking a stance in that as well.
Yes.
That AI is not going to take away future jobs and everything.
Mm.
Yeah. So I did take a stance on it, tried to at least conclude it somehow in 250 words, 300 words.
Also like इतने सारे लोगों ने मुझसे पूछा है कि ऐसे में पॉइंट्स में लिखना है. आई मीन गाइस कम ऑन. ऐसे पॉइंट्स में नहीं लिख. इट्स
तो
कॉमन.
लास्ट ईयर आई वाज वेरी कंफ्यूज about the essay part. तो मैंने आपसे पूछा भी था कि ओ हाउ डू आई गो अबाउट इट. तो यू हैड सेंट मी सम ऑफ योर मटेरियल फ्रॉम योर यूपीएससी प्रेप, सो दैट डिड हेल्प अ लॉट कि हाउ डू यू गो अबाउट इट.
या
कि
आई
कि व्हाट.
वेंट थ्रू वो विजन आईएस की मैगजीन्स होती
हाँ,
है
हाँ, हाँ, हाँ.
होते हैं जो भी हॉट टॉपिक्स होते
हम्म.
हैं. आई थिंक लाइक वहां से लाइक अगर टाइम नहीं है तो एंड में यू कैन जस्ट गो.
वही वही.
और उसमें बहुत कंसाइज भी होता है.
हाँ, हाँ, हाँ. So I had started going through those compendiums which nice वाली. They
हम्म.
were also somewhat helpful in the part A GK part, but वो
या
तो थोड़ा चलो ट्विटर टाइप जीके आ गई थी. हाँ.
व्हाट
But
डू बाय ट्विटर टाइप लाइक कुछ क्वेश्चन इफ यू रिमेम्बर.
I think the most discussed question was the annotate question कि ये कहाँ से आ गया फिर.
एंड
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was an annotate question. I think which influencer was recently arrested in Romania or something. So
ओके.
that was an annotate question. But the things that might be happening or तुमने कोई एक random fact you've noticed about it, those can be questions in that exam. This was something that I realized.
ओके.
Um, so wait, part B, I think the compendiums really helped. Uh, to just get to know about the topic, what arguments can you make for the topic or against the topic, and then take a stance in that as well.
But how can NLS ask a question on Andrew Tate? It's so funny.
Yeah, so I think people discussed that question quite a bit after the exam as well.
Course. So, also one more thing, like you completed your paper, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
2 घंटे का
yeah.
time and you made sure.
हाँ, हाँ.
Mm.
Yeah, even though I don't think after the paper I was not satisfied with the answer that I had written for every question, even the subjective part. But
No,
I thought that at least I'd managed to complete it. क्योंकि ऐसे पूरा छूटता तो वो पूरे ही 15 मार्क्स जा रहे हैं ना आपके.
exactly.
वही तो might as well try to
Mm.
finish that.
So, I mean, we have discussed part A, part B, and subject, yeah, the essay as well. So it's no rocket science. सब कुछ है available बाहर.
हाँ.
So this
Hmm.
was Urvashi's strategy. And tell me, like, did you have any backups अगर like by chance NLS में नहीं होता है? So did you think कि law तो करनी थी तुम्हें?
हाँ, लॉ तो करनी थी, बट वही आई हैड गिवन द एग्जाम फॉर ड्यू लॉ फैक एज वेल. आई हैड गिवन CUET PG.
Okay.
So I got a good score in that as well. But वही कि I was more interested in doing law from NLS specifically. Had I gone to DU law fac, I was not very sure, how do I go about this?
I
Should
was
law be a career for me?
इवन आई वाज इन लॉ फैक. मैं पहले सेमेस्टर में था, फिर एनएलएस केम आउट विद नोटिफिकेशन कि उनका हो रहा है. फिर मैंने दिया, मैं आ गया. एंड
Hmm.
आई ऑल्सो नो वन पर्सन, सुगम सहरावत. उसका एनएलएस में हुआ था, वो एनएलएस छोड़ के फिर लॉ फैक.
Hmm. Hmm.
सो आई मीन इट डिपेंड्स, तुम्हारी अपनी चॉइसेस क्या है क्या नहीं है.
हाँ, because I remember talking about this to you, and you told me this example. क्योंकि I think you were one of the first people जिनकी videos I'd seen for NLSAT specifically, जो neurologist by Ayushi की थी.
सो आर यू हैप्पी लाइक इन एनएलएस? हैप्पी इन द सेंस लाइक व्हाट यू एक्सपेक्टेड जैसे होता है ना एनएलएस में बहुत. आई रिमेम्बर यू कॉल्ड मी, यू वर लाइक कि यार मुझे मेल आया है कि मेरा हो गया है. सच में हो गया है? आई वाज लाइक ऑफ कोर्स हो गया. आई मीन यू आर सो हैप्पी. You got into one of the like the best college, law college in the country.
हाँ.
But when you come there and then you see, things are not exactly as you thought of. So
Hmm.
how has your experience been in NLS now? You
I
know?
mean, academically, it's really good. It's rigorous. I don't think personally I'm very happy with my own performance in the
Okay.
last two trimesters.
Yeah.
Um, but I think really sound intellectual people that might be teaching you lots to learn from them. It does get rigorous at times, especially in the last 1.5 months of the trimester. You have a lot of submissions, you have end trimester exams, so it can get overwhelming.
छुट्टी
That is
भी
true.
देते हैं. Like
Yeah.
फ्राइडे को फ्राइडे को या सैटरडे को मेरा वाइवा है और मंडे को एग्जाम है. लाइक छुट्टियां भी नहीं देते हैं.
हाँ, दैट इज ट्रू. वो तो ये तो एक इशू है.
डीयू से आके डीयू में 10 15 दिन.
हाँ,
सो
भाई, एंड यू हैव टू गो टू एटलीस्ट 4 hours और 6 hours ऑफ क्लासेस. थोड़ा तो हो जाता है, इतना आदत नहीं होती क्लास जाने की.
एग्जैक्टली. एंड यहाँ पे 75% अटेंडेंस इज मैंडेटरी.
हाँ. हाँ.
लाइक लोगों को लगता है कि
हाँ.
लाइक दे आर वेरी स्ट्रिक्ट. इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो अगर हमने शुरू में मिस कर ली है, जैसे इट्स ट्राइमेस्टर
हाँ, ट्रू.
कर ली थी, तो मैं लास्ट में आई हैड टू गो. लाइक आंखों में खून आ गया. मैं फिर भी जाता था. बट एनी हाउ. So Urvashi, like any final tips for aspirants on the exam day? अब बहुत कम टाइम बचा है. What should they do in
हाँ.
frame, and what should they do on the exam day? What they should not do? Like, yeah.
I mean, first of all, try to attempt the entire paper.
Okay.
Secondly, just know what you're better at, whether it's part A or part B, and start the paper accordingly. Just
Mm,
I knew I'm somewhat better at part A. If I finish part A first, I'll be mentally more satisfied. Ki, okay, now I can do part B.
mm,
It would somehow reduce the overall anxiety of the paper.
yeah.
But yeah, this was how I went about it. So like, identify what you're better at.
Okay.
बाकी also थोड़ा मतलब the way they give their GK, it's slightly luck based also. I feel if you've just focused on those things, paid attention to little things, get it.
Also, I believe luck factor इस exam में बहुत है because seats are so less and इतने
हाँ. हाँ.
so luck factor वहाँ पे आ जाता है. सो
True.
फाइनल टिप्स है अटेम्प्ट पूरा पेपर. सेकेंडली उर्वशी की टिप्स है कि नो योर स्ट्रेंथ्स एंड वीकनेसेस एंड अटेम्प्ट द पेपर अकॉर्डिंगली. सो
Yeah. Oh yeah, and try to not this is not for the exam day, but try to give an offline mock. It really helps you get an idea ki how to because so a lot of people um in my batch particularly I've seen are UPSC aspirants. So they know how to write their answers in time. So they have a good practice of that. So try to give offline mocks if possible.
ओके. एंड वन मोर थिंग आई वुड ऐड इज दैट डोंट जस्ट रिलाई ऑन एनएलएस. द एग्जाम
Hmm.
somewhat luck based also. So give other exams. MHCET होता है, DU एग्जाम है, सिम्बायोसिस है. So give, like, keep your options open. एंड अगर यहाँ हो रहा है अच्छी बात है, नहीं हो रहा है तो कहीं और हो जाएगा. एंड इवेंचुअली तुम्हारे लीगल करियर में तुम जितना अच्छा कर रहे हो, लॉ स्कूल ऑफ कोर्स इट डिफाइंस इट, बट तुम्हारी पूरी लाइक मेहनत लॉ स्कूल के बाद की, उससे फर्क पड़ता है. तो नहीं होगा, सो लाइक डोंट गेट डिसहार्टेंड एंड कीप योर ऑप्शंस ओपन. So anyway, Urvashi, thank you for joining, and I'll see you in NLS.
Yes,
Yeah.
2 weeks later. Bye bye.
Thank you.